A lot of narcissistic abuse survivors are hypersexual, but unlike narcissists who may want intimacy all the time to dominate, control, or feed their ego, these survivors are not addicted to sex. They're not promiscuous either. It is deeper than that. It's more about what happened to them, what their body went through, how their nervous system is wired now to seek connection through chaos. Let me explain in a lot more depth. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. The topic for this episode is 5 reasons why a lot of narcissistic abuse survivors are hypersexual. I've spoken in great detail before about the narcissist's sexuality, how they use it to control, to lure, to punish, to elevate their grandiosity. But today, it isn't about them. Today, it is about the survivor, about you, about the strange, confusing relationship you may have developed with your own body. The impulses you did not understand, the longing you could not explain, the moments where you questioned, why am I like this now? This is where we go deep. Of course, not a shame, no, and not to pathologize, but to truly understand. Number 1. Sex becomes a way to feel loved, even for a moment. When you have been through narcissistic abuse, love stops feeling safe. It becomes conditional, doesn't it? Love was something you had to earn. You were praised only when you pleased, touched only when you submitted, valued only when you disappeared into their needs. So now, after the relationship ends, your body remembers that pattern. Being desired feels like love. Being wanted, even momentarily, feels like you exist again. That's why a lot of survivors may find themselves seeking out intimacy not for fun but for survival. Not because they are craving sex, but because they are craving significance. That is the most important part. It is not reckless behavior as you may think. It is an attempt to recreate the only form of connection they were allowed to experience, even if it was rooted in pain. For a few minutes, they feel seen, they feel chosen. And when you have spent years being made to feel invisible, that momentary validation can feel like oxygen. But as with all things, it fades and the emptiness returns. Then the cycle begins again. Number 2, hypersexuality is a nervous system dysregulation which manifests itself as a malfunction. Let's get into the science for a moment. Trauma changes your nervous system. I have explained it in great depth. It rewires how you interpret safety, threat, and regulation. When you are with a narcissist, your body lives in survival mode. You are constantly scanning for danger. You are constantly bracing for the next insult, the impact, the next withdrawal, the next punishment disguised as silence. That tension becomes your normal, your baseline. So after the abuse ends, your nervous system is still stuck in that loop. It does not crave calm. It does not even recognize it. It craves intensity and counterintuitively drama, the rush of being wanted, even if it is unhealthy. And sex, sex is intense. It brings a surge of hormones, adrenaline, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. To a dysregulated system, that surge feels familiar. It mimics the chaos you once called love, or should I say, you were forced to call love. But before you blame yourself, understand that this is not conscious. You're not chasing chaos on purpose. Your body is just trying to regulate itself the only way it knows how, through a kind of intimacy that mirrors the very trauma it is trying to escape. That's a paradox. This is why some survivors may feel confused. They know they are making choices that do not align with who they are, who they want to be. But they can't stop because it's not about willpower. It's about trauma responses and trauma reenactment, which is what we'll talk about in number 3. Number 3, reenacting the trauma to create a new outcome, to give it a different ending. This one is really difficult to talk about, but it is real. Sometimes survivors find themselves in situations that echo the past, being with emotionally unavailable people, being used, being dismissed after intimacy. Not because they do not see the red flags, but because they are unconsciously trying to win this time. What does that mean? Well, they are trying to rewrite the ending. If I can make this one stay, maybe I wasn't the problem. If I can get love from someone like that, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. If I give more, maybe I will be enough. But that's not how trauma healing works, does it? These reenactments do not free you. They keep you trapped in the same pain, except now you are the one handing yourself over. It doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are still stuck in the loop, still trying to solve a puzzle that never had a solution, still trying to earn a love that should have been yours all along. Reenactment is not about desire. It's about pain trying to find a place to land. Number 4, trying to reclaim power over your body. That's also a very important reason. For a lot of survivors, sexuality was used as a weapon against them. Some were forced, some were denied, some were made to feel dirty, unwanted, or broken. Their body became a battleground eventually, controlled, policed, and shamed. So when you escape, the urge to reclaim your body is really strong. I'm not yours anymore. I choose now. I will never be powerless again. You may begin to explore your sexuality not from a place of freedom, but from a place of defiance, unconsciously. It becomes a protest, a rebellion, a way to feel control in a world where you had none. And in theory, that sounds empowering. But if it is still driven by pain and unprocessed anger, it can become destructive. The body becomes a tool, not a home. Intimacy becomes a transaction, not a connection. You are using sex to fight the past, but you're still not free from it. Reclamation is powerful, but only when it is grounded in healing, not in unconscious and invisible revenge. Only when it is rooted in self-love, not in the desire to prove something is wrong. Number 5, sex helps you to numb your emotional pain. There is a grief that comes after narcissistic abuse that nobody talks about. The grief of losing yourself more than losing that narcissist. The grief of not being believed. The grief of wondering if any of it was real. You know what I'm talking about. And when that grief becomes unbearable, sex becomes a distraction. It silences the noise for a while. It fills the night. It gives you something else to focus on. Something other than the memories you wish you could erase. But it is like trying to treat an infected wound with perfume. It might cover the smell, but the infection is still there. It's still festering. Many survivors wake up from these encounters feeling worse, more alone, more ashamed, more disconnected from their own intuition, from their bodies. But please hear this. That does not make you bad. That's not the message. That does not make you like them, like the narcissist. That makes you human. You are trying to survive. You are trying to feel something other than hollow. You are doing what you can with the pain that was never yours to carry in the first place. Now, not everyone becomes hypersexual. And I want to say this loud and clear. Not every survivor becomes hypersexual. Some become completely the opposite. They shut down. Their body goes into freeze. Touch becomes triggering. Desire disappears. They become hyper-aware, guarded, even repulsed by the idea of intimacy. Not because they're cold, but because the body is protecting them. Their system has registered love, physical love, as dangerous, and now it rejects anything that even looks like it. This is called hyposexuality, and it is just as common. There are survivors who haven't been able to be touched in years, who flinch when something brushes against them, who can't imagine ever being seen naked again. And that is just as valid. That is just as real. That is also trauma. So when someone asks, why are you so hypersexual? What's going on? The answer is never simple. It's not about being wild. It's not about not knowing boundaries. It's about grief and memory and trying to reclaim something that was stolen from you. They can't understand it. Some survivors use sex to feel, others use to forget it. Some use it to connect, others use it to disappear. But beneath all of that, there is pain, there is history. There is a soul that is trying to come back home to itself. You're not broken, you're not shameful, you're not dirty. You are healing even when it does not look like healing, even when it's messy, even when it scares you. Your story is totally valid, and I must tell you, you're not alone in it. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Let me know in the comments if you were able to resonate with what I shared with you today. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.